one survivor, and the survivor was a 9-month-old baby girl. Okay. Good to hear. So, I'm going to give you a little bit of background information about Middletown, Pennsylvania. So, this town was discovered in 1755 by George Fisher. It was named Middletown because it was the halfway point between Lancaster and Carlisle, Pennsylvania. This town is also along the eastern bank of the Susquehanna River. So if you guys ever want to visit this area, I now presented you a little miniature map. Okay. So, according to the 2010 census, during the year of 2002, approximately 8,900 citizens lived in this town. Now, to jump into what occurred. So, on December 24th, 2002, Jean Wholaver, which she was 43, had two daughters, one named Elizabeth, and she was 15 at the time. Elizabeth also went by the nickname Izzy, and Victoria was the second daughter. Victoria was 20 at the time, and she is the one who had the 9-month-old baby girl, which her name is Madison. So, Jean, Izzy, Victoria, and Madison were planning to visit Jean's parents' home for a family tradition on Christmas Eve. Typically, they would all go to Jean's parents' home, spend the night, eat dinner, wake up the next morning, and open their Christmas gifts. Jean's mom, which her name is Mary, was expecting them to come. When she did not get a visit from them, she became worried, and so she called the police to ask them could they do a wellness check on Jean's home. She also inquired about if there were any reported accidents along the routes that Jean traveled to get to her house. The dispatcher told Mary that they did not get any reports for accidents, but to call the next day if Jean did not show up. She also let her know that there could have been traveling delays due to the weather conditions during that night. So she wanted her to wait a little bit just to see if that was the case. Now, every year, this was a tradition, and Ernest Wholaver also would travel with his family to his mother-in-law's house. a welfare check. When Givler arrived, he didn't notice anything suspicious or out of the ordinary. So he goes up to the front door and rings the doorbell, but there was no answer. He looked through the windows of the home and he really couldn't see if there was anything going on. So he decides to go to the back of the house and he notices that the window of the garage had been broken out. He grabs the garage door handle to see if it is still latched, but it lifted easily. And he also noticed that Jean's car was still parked in the garage. So he knocks on the door that was leading to the home from the garage. And that door falls open. So Officer Givler then enters the home. He announced himself, asking, was anyone home? And he did not receive a response. So that same door that fell open leads to a little hallway. And through the archway of that hallway leads off to a kitchen. And that's where Officer Givler discovers a female body lying on the floor. it doesn't really say what he stated he was doing, but basically whatever his alibi was, it was cleared and it was verified. Frankie lived in the Reading area of Pennsylvania, which is about an hour and a half from Middletown. Another individual that was investigated was named Turner Higgins. Now, Turner and Victoria had an on-again, off-again relationship, and they had recently went through a falling out, which made the detectives question him. Turner let them know that he wouldn't have done this because he at one point received a call from Jean asking for him to change all of the locks on her home because he was a locksmith. So Turner's alibi was also cleared and validated. So the police had no other choice but to look back at family members. They obtained a search warrant for the Wholaver residence in Cambria County and for Scott's vehicle, which again, Scott is Ernest's brother. Detectives had searched in the trunk of Scott's car, and they found a notebook. In this notebook was a handwritten note from Scott, which says, "We were out spotting deer and coyotes." Now, I do want to, if you, Scott, and you, Ernest, both know that you guys were out spotting deer, there would be no reason for you to write this down in a notebook. The only reason that would make sense would be if you have if you have short-term memory loss, or B, if you have brain injury. Other than that, it's not making sense as to why you decided to write what you guys were doing. It wasn't like you were journaling and you decided to write out your day. No, you just wrote that one part as if Ernest had told you what to remember if you guys were approached by a officer. So that's my 2 cents. So, due to officers finding this note, the brothers were brought back into the police station. Ernest had asserted his right to remain silent, and he had contacted his attorney, which he then left with. Scott kept to the same story, that they were out spotting deer. So the investigators showed him a picture of Jean, and this was the crime scene picture. Then they showed him his 2 nieces the crime scene picture, and that's when he broke down and confessed to what he knew. So he tells police that he had drove Ernest to his former Middletown home early that morning of December 24th. One second. Okay, so he states that they were out drinking when Ernest said that he wanted to go to his Middletown home to get his dog. Scott had agreed to drive him, even though he knew that per his bail conditions, he could not go anywhere towards the house or his family. He states that they ended up arriving at 4 a.m. Ernest had told him to park down the block and to stay in the car, and Ernest then Ernest was conjuring up. So they were able to get the DEA agent from West Virginia to pose as an alleged hitman, and authorities were able to record them discussing the killing using the code word tank to stand for Ramos. So at his trial, the 3 counts of murder were also combined with his sexual offenses and the criminal solicitation that was related to having Ramos killed. Scott testified for the prosecution, stating that when Ernest had moved back to their parents' home, he had said that he would shoot Jean. Victoria and Izzy's testimony regarding the molestation was omitted under the forfeiture by wrongdoing exception to the hearsay rule. The theory that Ernest killed his family was so that they could not testify against him during their testimony. So Ernest was convicted on 3 counts of first-degree murder, killing prosecution witnesses, conspiracy, reckless endangerment of Madison, burglary, and criminal solicitation, and he was acquitted for the sexual offenses. The jury had sentenced Ernest to 3 death sentences due to various appeals, though Ernest is still on death row. In addition, there is a moratorium on executions in Pennsylvania under the Governor Wolf. So, according to a press journal article, it posted that in January of 2014, the Pennsylvania Superior Court ruled on January 10th that the sexual abuse charges against Wholaver would stay on his criminal arrest record. Although a jury acquitted him, they only did so because he had murdered the witnesses that were to testify against him. The Superior Court noted that the sexual abuse charges are inextricably tied to the murders, and Wholaver is not entitled to relief that would expunge his record. So Ernest was seeking relief, basically saying that the charges would stay on his record and it would hinder his chances of proving his innocence in the future. You have no innocence. In January of 2019, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court upheld Wholaver's convictions, dismissing over a dozen issues that he raised on appeal. His state appeals have been exhausted and now turns to the federal appeal process. So, this is all of the information that I have, and my heart definitely goes out to Madison and Jean's parents, and their family. It is a hard thing for Madison to know that you were in the house when your entire family was killed, and that it was your great